How's it going, everyone? I'm Dustin with Hard Cruise Racing. I'm in here cleaning my race trailer out. Well, you can't really see anything. I got like a race bike and stuff pulled apart in here. During winter, I use my race trailer as a warm place to work on things because I live in the country and it gets cold here in Ohio. So I wanted to make a video, less of a video and more of a discussion. Okay, so if you have any opinions about what I'm talking about, or that's agree, disagree, a different thought I haven't thought of, do me a favor, leave them in the comments below. But I want to have a conversation, okay? This conversation is over what professional racing or what doing racing as a profession looks like today compared to history, compared to 20 years ago, 10 years ago, whatever it may be. Knocking stuff out of my pockets. So, again, my name is Dustin. I went to college for cars, associates in classic restoration, associates in automotive technology, and associates in high performance and racing technology. My goal when I was coming out of the military was to have a career in racing. Then when I went to school for business to help me along that goal, I seen some things that I didn't really agree with that were being taught. And so I did my final business paper on the racing industry today and what it looks like to be a professional racer. That was a few years back, and I still agree with most of the things I said in there today. But I want to bring it out for public discussion because I think a lot of times, and I was included in this, I spent a lot of my life thinking it was something that it was not. So I kind of just want to talk about what I see today. And go from there. So, who am I? Just a guy. I like to go racing on the weekends. Do I have sponsorships? I did. I raced a full season at Dirt Circle Trucks and things like that. I had sponsorships that were paying enough that I was racing for free, essentially. But, that's where I've been. So I want to talk about, as I kind of go forward, our goal for the next coming few years is stage rally. I mean, I got like flat track or motorcycles and things like that I'm working on. But my biggest goal over the last few years has been keeping racing cheap enough that it's accessible for everyone. And a lot of this conversation will have to do with that. So first and foremost, history. I think the only way we can look at what racing can be today is by understanding what racing has been and what racing was. Growing up, I didn't come from money. I've always wanted to race. We were a sit around and watch NASCAR type family growing up. But I was under the understanding that unless you had a lot of money in your pocket, it wasn't going to happen. I essentially found out that is true to a point. But I left for the military at 18 years old. While I was gone, a buddy of mine said, why don't we go out and do some racing? Buy a drift car, buy a whatever, and let's go racing. I didn't know it was that accessible, okay? But that's what I did. I bought a cheap car. This would have been 2012, 2014. This is when we were still buying dirt cheap shit boxes and going to the racetrack. Since then, especially within drifting and things like in different race series like that, I've seen this big fascination with building these super high-end cars, even for people who've never touched a track. I don't agree with that. I think go out and buy yourself something like a cheap Miata or Fox Body Mustang, do absolutely nothing to it, and go out and beat the snot out of it as a race car. That's what I still believe in. Again, a lot of my passion comes from keeping racing affordable and accessible for the general public, because it isn't in most cases. So, I got good. I'm very good, in my opinion, at handling a car. And I had the opportunity to join an enduro team. And for me to join an enduro team, I was invited. It was going to cost me a lot of money. So again, I didn't come from money. I don't like to spend money. So I didn't do it. That's what it came down to. I was going to college at the time. And the invite wasn't good enough for me to want to go do it. I became good friends with a guy that does endurance racing and road course racing. I kind of discovered over the years that a lot of his income, even though he is a professional driver, comes from teaching. It comes from his work at a race school, not necessarily racing. So yes, historically, I think in my opinion, racing 20 years ago is very different than racing today. 20 years ago, a big company, say Goodyear, say any of those companies, 20 years ago, they understood the value of taking their funds and dumping them into the general public, into the lower ends of racing to promote their product, okay? The idea is very simple. If I give our product to a racing, somebody doing dirt circle track in Ohio, say a clutch, and other people are having clutch issues, but I'm not, then everyone's going to look at me and be like, well, that guy is sponsored by whatever clutch company, I'll give them a try. And if me, as a sponsored driver, can say, well, hey, I can give you 10%, 20% off, that's appealing, right? Because now you're going to try the product. That was the idea 20 years ago, okay? Today it's different. It really is. Today, say I was to make a clutch, today I don't need to send that clutch out to 20 drivers and supply them with funds and supply them with all these other things. I don't need to do that because I can send it to 5 of the top YouTubers on YouTube, and they're gonna make me more money that way, and they're gonna be more reliable in the sense of advertising. And by that, what I mean is, if I were to take my clutch and send it to 20 drivers, I can probably expect 10 of them to actually advertise for me, if that. But if I send it to YouTubers and they make a good video, me as a consumer is going to be like, what's the best clutch to race dirt tracks in my 90 or my 89 Ranger, and that's going to come up, best dirt circle track Ranger clutches. So now I have a video, I have a review, I have visual concept, I have proof if somebody else went out and proved it, and it required that company to send it to 5 people instead of 20. Of course the companies are going to do that, but what that means for us little guy is that we are not going to receive those sponsorships anymore. So yeah, that's kind of what I want to talk about. 20 years ago, different. They would send us product, they would send us funding, they would say advertise our product and push it, and we'll send you more funding if it benefits us. That doesn't exist anymore. Let's throw that away. The other side of it is going to be with what I would call your big sponsors, your dealerships, your Ford and Dodge and all of them. Back in the day, it made sense. Back in the day, 50s, 60s, you're looking at race it on Sunday, buy it on the dealership on Monday. You're talking about real stock cars. Even stage rally, you could go out and watch a Subaru race. You can go to the dealership and buy that Subaru. That doesn't happen anymore. Us looking at stage rally, we're either going to buy a vintage stage rally car, which I'm very encouraged to do, or the other option is drop $100,000 and a company like Vermont Sports Car is going to build you a one-off custom rally car that might look like a Ford Fiesta, but it's not really a Ford Fiesta. And if I go out and buy a Ford Fiesta, I can't build that car. That's the separation right now, okay, with everything. The car you see that's racing in NASCAR is no longer a stock car. Called a stock car, you cannot buy that car. Let's just be honest. If you did buy that car, you'd be $500,000 plus in, and no one's going to do that. So we've created a separation where they did not limit enough race cars moving forward, which has essentially caused a divide, where you have this back here, which now sponsors don't care about, and this up here, which when they sponsor it, they get their name out to millions of people. So again, we suffer from that. I no longer can go out and kick ass at something like Stage Rally, and then Subaru be like, that was sick, let me sponsor you. Another great example is I had an opportunity to jump in a NASCAR car, an ARCA car, so the lower level of NASCAR. I was told that I needed to bring $150,000 in sponsors to that team, and I could jump in the car. There you go. Here's your line. Bring us sponsorship for $150,000, and we'll let you race a car. I've heard numbers higher than that. That was just an offer that I had at a very low end. Again, $150,000 to race one race. No one's doing that. Let's just be honest. Now, again, we go through history. You can see where you might go out and pick up a car go out and race it on the racetrack, and if you did really good, you'd be invited to come to a higher echelon of racing. If you did really good, you might get shaken hands and be able to make contacts to even get to a higher echelon of racing. It doesn't happen anymore, okay? It does not happen. So, for you today, I want you to look at racers that have been successful in using marketing strategies. Things like YouTube or Instagram or things like that. My YouTube platform right here, we've made a couple $100 off here off the last year. I don't get a lot of views. I don't get a lot of subscribers. That's okay. I do educational content. I'm okay with that. But what that has provided me is funding for my racing. A few $100 doesn't sound like much, but that might be a set of tires on my dirt truck. This super budget, this bike right here, this super budget flat tracker I'm building, I think I have a total of $400 in that bike in total, and it's essentially race ready. So YouTube paid for that. It's not easy. It takes a ton of work. So it's not a great example, but if you look over history, people like Ryan Turk's a great one, who really utilized YouTube at the earlier time until he was able to get up into Formula Drift. Great example. Same thing with Travis Pastrana. Same thing with Ken Block, rest his soul. He did amazing at creating really great and insane marketing materials that got millions and millions of views until he was able to build a brand, until he was able to build a platform, partner with Donut Media, things like that. That is a great example of what can make you a professional driver today. Now, let's just make something very clear. Professional racing. The word professional means that it is your profession, means that it is a source of income for you. It means that, it's how you pay your bills. That's your profession. That's what makes you a professional. There's a lot of misconceptions out there about like, well, you're not at the highest echelon, so you can't be a professional. No, that is not how that works. If you live in a trailer park, and everything you own is paid off, and you need to make $10,000 a year to cover the rest of your living costs, and you're racing and you're making $6,000 of that 10, that is your primary source of income. You are a professional race car driver. It is your profession. It is what you're using to live off of. Profession. Okay. I say that because you look at somebody like Dale Earnhardt Jr. Again, very successful in racing, very successful in sponsorships, and then turned around and went to platforms like this to do vlogs and talk shows and things like that, continuing to be very successful. He lives in a mansion. He has millions of dollars and tons of assets that I don't need in my life. If I am paying for my house and all that other stuff and I'm good, I'm good. I don't need that. So my example of a professional would be very much lower than his example of where he's at now. So, reel her in, there, guy. Professional means you do it for a living. It's your profession. I would count somebody like, Cletus McFarlane, who used social media, used YouTube, used the platform to build an audience, and then go out and buy a racetrack and race. This is still part of his racing thing. YouTube is. So this is his profession, okay? That's how I look at it. Somebody like, what did I say earlier? Well, you remember Drift Alliance, okay? Remember Drift Alliance? Way back in the day. I can't confirm this, but I would believe that's how a lot of those guys made a good income to then go on to race in Formula Drift, because they had a great following, they did a lot of good content, and they continue to do a lot of good content. Hoonigan is another great example you can't overlook. His content is amazing. His family is continuing to race under a different name, and their content is pretty good. And I would count any dollar that they make off YouTube or any other platform as part of that income for racing. Okay, so going out today, if you were to go want to race, first off, accept that split, and accept that a lot of people on that lower end of the split think that they got to do great things and get up here, but you don't. And so when you're looking here, you're looking at like racing shit boxes and having fun, and overbuilding things and racing and then being upset because things broke. I'm going to encourage you, if you're getting into racing, to stay down here for a little bit. Go build something that is below you in a mindset. go build something like one of these dirt circle track trucks, or one of these cheap super budget flat tracker bikes, or a cheap rally car that you don't mind rolling through the woods. Go out there and push yourself, and push that car to the absolute limit. Hold it off the rev limiter, and if you blow it up, go to the junkyard and get another engine and go have fun with it. Go out there and try to get sponsorships. So watch out, okay? A lot of these big companies now, they're not going to give you what you need, okay? A couple years ago when I was racing a full season, I had sponsorships by big companies like GoPro and Spy Optics and Mishimoto and companies like that. It looks good when you have them, but understand they will not benefit you, okay? I went out and got a GoPro sponsorship, and the only thing that they offered me was discounts on their newest cameras, or I could just go buy 3 of their old cameras for the same price. But that wasn't part of the sponsorship, so now I'm required to buy their newest cameras. I can tell you right now, hold on. Here's what a GoPro looks like when you falls off a race truck and you run it over. Yeah, that was an expensive mistake that I wish I would have bought a much cheaper camera for. But my sponsorship required that I buy an expensive camera. Those sponsorships also are going to require you to put their sticker on your vehicles, on your tow vehicles, on your race vehicles, on your race suit, things like that. They won't pay for that, so you're going to pay that out of pocket. What else? They're going to require other things too, like social media posts and so on. And a lot of them are only going to offer you a discount. A discount is not a sponsorship, because I can tell you right now that some of the companies that I had sponsorships for, Mishimoto is a great one. I grew up in the 90s. I love Mishimoto stuff. That's a cool brand to be sponsored by, right? Well, radiator from my race truck, if I were to go on Amazon, would cost me about $120 for a full aluminum radiator at the thickness I want, the size I want, everything that I want. For $120, let's say $150 is a high end. It might not be the best thing in the world, but it's going to be overkill for what I need. Or I can be required to buy a Mishimoto one, which might cost me, $750. So how many radiators can I destroy at $150 price range before I get to that $750 price range? A lot. And in racing, we're banging doors. I've gotten in crashes. I've gotten in, all sorts of things. And you have to replace parts. And if your sponsorship requires that you use their part, now I have to buy another $750 radiator instead of buying 5 $150 radiator. So that's the other thing. Watch these sponsorships. They aren't going to give you what you want. I'm going to be right up front and honest with you. It's about what we talked about earlier. They don't benefit for it. They don't care. What that does, though, okay, when I was going to school for business, we actually talked about this. It was that if you can incentivize a purchase at a lower cost than what you'd usually make, then you're going to receive a sale that you otherwise would not have. It's a very simple concept, okay? Here's how it goes. I'm not a Mishimoto customer, okay? I would not buy a Mishimoto. So they're not going to make a full $750 price on me. Not going to happen, okay? But they give me a discount. Let's say that discount's 30% off. So now instead of $750, I don't know math off the top of my head. Let's say it's $500. Let's say it costs them $300 to make the part, okay? And they were originally selling it for $750. What's that? $450 profit. So now they're going to sell it to me for $5. So instead of making $450, they're going to make $200. Now it sounds like a loss or a loss of potential, but I otherwise would never have been a customer. So now they're making less money per sale, but I would not otherwise be a customer of them, which means they're making a sale they would otherwise never be in their books. So yeah, that's how that works. They make it very appealing to you, so you buy it. Spy Optics a great option. I was sponsored by Spy Optics for multiple years because I thought over long term that they would begin to, throw something back my way. They didn't, by the way. But they did require that I buy and only wear their product. So by the time I paid for their stickers, their patches, bought their product, promoted their product, I was like $200 in the hole right out the gate. They didn't give me nothing. They didn't even give me an option to make sales to receive something. I couldn't even like send people their way and make money off of it. I could get nothing from them. Zero. But they got sales off me because it was part of my requirement for my sponsorship. Yeah, so watch that. Go to your local stores, go to your local places, say $100, $200, something low where they're like, I could throw that at you and get some advertisement, but you got to do something for them. That's always the other end of it. In racing, for you to have a sponsorship, you are working for them. You're advertising for them. So you go to your local flower shop, you're like, hey, sponsor me, and I will park my race truck out here as part of the sponsorship. If I win, then I'll put a flower display on as part of the sponsorship. Your stickers will be on my stuff, blah, 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 blah. Over time, you got to do good and make more money to do good. Yeah. So watch that. Don't do these sponsorships that are going to cost you money. Don't do that. It looks cool on your race trailer. It looks cool on a sweater. I got a sweater inside that has like all these big sponsors on the back of it. Looks cool, but it's going to cost you money. Money you would not otherwise spend. So don't do that. So what do I think professional racing looks like moving forward? That's just it. I think it's going to take racing, and I think it's going to take community connections within your local community. Not these big companies aren't coming for us anymore. Doesn't make sense for them to do it. So local connections. I also think it's going to take a business or something else behind it. Rather that's media, rather that's you selling things. I think it's going to take something else behind your racing. Yeah, moving forward, we'll see what that entitles. Again, this is a conversation. In the comments below, tell me your opinion. If you have found good success in the last 5 years, we'd love to hear from you down there. If you are trying to get there, like I am, yeah, I want to hear your success down there, your downfalls. Again, this is what I found through trial, error, business school, planning, my future lookalike, all these other things. Could mean something different for someone else. The people that I know that are successful in racing right now have a business outside of racing within racing. That's what it is. I am one guy that I know that races road course. He also teaches at a racing school and does all these other things, and that's what funds his racing. Again, a lot of these people out there that racing have social media that funds their racing. They have parts companies that are funding their racing. They're having all these other things so they can fund their racing. One of the guys that I know that races Pikes Peak, for example, builds chassis for Pikes Peak cars, and these people that I know that race rally teams have businesses that build things for rally. So yeah, that's what I think the future of professional racing looks like. I think the days of having a big sponsor or a big company or a something like that behind you is gone. That's what I think. Okay. Again, my goal over the last few years, my goal moving forward is to keep racing affordable and accessible for everyone. So when somebody comes to me and they say, I want to go racing, I can say, grab one of these dirt trucks over here and put a junkyard engine in it, and let's do a few repairs to it, and let's spend $4,000 and get you into racing. Or you got a vintage bike you can pick up off Marketplace for $150, $500. Let's just do these repairs. Let's do this rear end conversion. Let's do these other things. Let's get you racing. Because part of what I do with my educational content isn't just about showcasing building these bikes. It's how it's built, because I do educational content. So when I was working through and building, say, this rear end conversion, allowing us to do another front tire on the rear for racing, I did big videos on that so that way you can watch it and be like, you know, if I got me a Suzuki GS 550, I can get me an extra front wheel and those spacers and those bolts, and it'll make it work. I could do that, and I could do that for $150. So now I'm however much money into racing, and we can go racing this weekend. We can give it a try, and we can have fun. Now, don't get me wrong. If you love it, if I go out and race this and it's the best thing I ever done in my life, I might look at buying a specific race bike. I might look at spending $5,000, $10,000. I might set up a system for that. But if I want to go do it like 4 times a year, 2 times a year, that's all I need. This race truck's a great example. I think I had $2,000 into this race truck racing it. I bought a roller with a blown up engine, bought a junkyard engine. I swapped a bunch of parts back and forth. I think I was $2,000 into it or less. And I went racing. And the tires that I have, these stacks of tires here, there's a stack of tire back by my barn, were all free from other racers that wanted to help me out. So for $2,000, I've had that truck for 3 years and raced it. I raced a whole season, and I raced a few races the year before that. I didn't race last year. I just other stuff going on. Might race it this year. $2,000. Okay? You can do that. You can raise $2,000 and get into racing. And that's been my goal with the channel. That's been my goal overall. Just have fun. And if I crash that, which I have, I tore out this whole front corner at one point in time, I shrugged it off. And I was like, I'll find another truck quarter panel and I'll have it back together and we'll be racing next week. And it ain't going to look the best, but we'll be racing next week. And if I roll this and crash it, that bike I got for free. I went to a lady's house to pick up for some free stuff. She had a snow blower that wasn't running. I got it, fixed it up, made it running, traded it for that bike. That bike's a free bike. If I slide it down the track, it sucks. I'll fix it. It'll be good. We'll keep racing. We'll have fun. So get out there, build cool things. Tell me what you think in the comments. Tell me if you're same train of thought or if you think I'm full of crap. I'm fine with that. But I don't think professional racing is going to be what it used to be 10, 20 years ago. I think it's going to be changed to where we're all going to need Facebook channels or YouTube and Facebook. And we're all going to need side businesses. And we're going to go out and have fun racing. And those top echelons are just, you got to be rich to do it. I think that's where it's at. I don't think you're going to get there. But if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. My plan is in the next 10 years is to buy a stage rally car, get into stage rally, push to the top echelon of that. I bet you I pay it out of pocket. I hope I'm wrong, guys. I hope and pray that I am wrong and that I don't have to go to Vermont Sports Car, pay for one of them cars out of pocket. But if I am, I am, and I'm going to have fun doing it. So go out there, build cool things. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. If you have an opinion, leave it in the comments. If you're going to build something cool, leave it in the comments. I want to know about it and have fun.